So it has come to my attention that there is a Muslim slandering me online. He is spreading lies about me and why I left Islam. I'm not surprised. Happened before. It happened with Dawa Man, who said I left Islam for an atheist girlfriend, and then he sorta kinda apologized. Someone else wrote that I left Islam to get a mortgage, and on and on. But this guy now slandering me, he was my friend. This is a story of how a friend can become an enemy. How Islam can make someone who was a close friend hate you. This to me is a perfect example of how Islam is toxic and dangerous. When you go against Allah, you have some Muslims who will do anything to stop you, even if it's unethical or wrong. I've had Muslims call up my company in the past and try to get me fired for my activism. I've had death threats, but thankfully nothing worse than that. Nothing in real life yet other than the job thing. But you can see why I worry. I even had a Muslim friend tell me to do my activism anonymously before I started this whole thing because he feared someone would hurt me or my family. I admit it sometimes is worrying, but I have to do this. This is your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim, Abdullah Samir. I was alerted today by a Muslim friend that Fareed, an Islamic apologist with a large Twitter following, had posted the following. A little bird told me that Samir had stopped fasting in 2014 because he found it unbearable. Neglecting an obligation can lead to apostasy, so never underestimate them. May Allah preserve us all. As soon as I saw this lie, I felt like I needed to respond. Was it true what Fareed said? That I stopped fasting in 2014 because I found it unbearable? No, it's not true. When I called out Fareed for spreading lies and unsubstantiated rumors, he exposed his source. I had a strong feeling that I knew who this little bird was, and I was right. This little bird is the now Imam Aarij Anwer, who used to be my friend. Who is Aarij? I've known Aarij for many years. He's a few years junior to me. I met him at university back in 2004 when he was studying computer science like I was. We became friends. He used to come over to my house. He would spend time, play with my kids. I went over to his house too and met his parents. When my sister-in-law converted to Islam for about a year or so, he sent her books. He advised me to go study Arabic in Egypt, and I actually did go to Egypt. We were what you would call almost family friends. I would never have expected him to turn on me like this. Back in July 2015, I left Islam and I was posting about it on Facebook. Aarij decided to invite me over to the masjid where he was working to discuss some of my issues. This was in August, less than a month after I left Islam. Little did I know that Aarij was planning a plan against me. When he invited me to come to speak to him, he was asking me loaded questions like, did you enjoy praying? Or was fasting tough? And was looking to see that I would say something that he could use to later undermine my position. He was looking for something juicy to expose me if I didn't recant my positions. The thing is, I had nothing to hide. I still don't. Back in 2015, after I met him, he did the same thing to me that he did now. He posted on Facebook the same nonsense accusation about fasting and praying being too tough for me. So I asked him on WhatsApp, why are you slandering me? Look what he said. When your goal changes from finding answers, which may have been the goal originally, to show Islam is false and poking holes in it, then my job becomes to show that the holes are in you, not in Islam. There you have it. He admitted what his agenda was. And this is the disgusting mentality of some Muslims, to ad hominem you, to employ the poisoning the well fallacy, so Muslims will not listen to your arguments. After 5 years, Fareed decided to share the same nonsense accusation with his 10,000 followers. After I called out Fareed for lying, Aarij wrote, I keep counseling records. Here's what I have in my notes. Met in August 2015, told me he doesn't pray when I asked him to join us for Asr. We'd spoken on the phone, so picked up discussion from there about Dhul Qarnayn, flat earth, eternity and hellfire, why the Prophet mistakenly told people to plant trees that didn't grow, reality of evil eye, and so on. He felt relieved, like a fire had been put out, prayed Maghrib with us, admitted he stopped fasting in 2014, then came to my senses in 2015. Next morning called to tell me I was wrong. And then later on, he posted, now perhaps he fasted some days in 2015, but clearly when he met me after Ramadan, he had stopped praying and refused to pray Asr. Okay there. Anyone else see how messed up this is? Before I get into what he said here and whether it's true or false, this was a private conversation. What gave him the right to write these things publicly back in 2015 and now again sharing it with Fareed, who is posting it publicly? If he was counseling me, shouldn't this have been private due to ethical rules and client-patient confidentiality? Some Muslims on Twitter also shared their concerns with him. Abdullah Motaz, do you find sharing private counseling notes to be ethical? How is a Muslim who suffers from doubt supposed to trust to come to you when you are leaking this? Chicago Murids, I have to strenuously agree with bro Abdullah here. My wife is a counselor. This is a breach of confidentiality ethics. She will not even share details of conversations with me with any of the people she sees, even though I'll never meet them. Seriously though, bigger question. Does it matter if I didn't fast? I did, but who cares? You know, what's the funny thing? When I converted from Ismailism to Sunni Islam, even though I was hardly even a practicing Ismaili, I didn't go to Khani that much, I didn't know the theology of Ismailism, they paraded me around as a convert. Yet when I left Sunnism, it's every excuse to poison the well. See the double standards? Convert to Islam, it's all good. You were the truest ex-Ismaili, ex-Christian, ex-Hindu, whatever. Leave Islam? You left because you hate fasting. Now I'm going to make this categorically clear. Aarij is slandering me. This is not true, what he said, and I will prove it. I have no reason to hide this. I did miss one day of fasting in 2014, but I did not stop fasting in 2014. If that was the case, how did I end up at a Ramadan iftar halaqah with my family to break the fast in 2015? What was I doing there in the masjid? The masjid knew me and my family well. We used to go to attend almost every day, either the Somali masjid, which I loved, or the Pakistani one where we got delicious biryani and nihari. They would see us there all the time, and I would take my kids too. So this is a straight up lie. If you want proof that I fasted and prayed until the very end of my religious days, ask my wife. Aarij has twisted what I said to make it sound like I stopped fasting a year before leaving Islam. What did I tell him? That I found fasting tough. That the fasts were really long in Canada at this time, 17 hours or so. That I wish the days were shorter because I would come home from a long commute. I would be tired and didn't have energy for my kids. But I did it. I did all of them up to the time I left Islam because the sacrifice was worth it and I didn't have a choice. So I did it in order to get to paradise. As I told Aarij, if I didn't want to fast, I wouldn't have fasted. You think all the Muslims fast every day? You think all the Muslims pray all the 5 prayers? They miss fast. They're still Muslim. That wouldn't be a cause for me to leave Islam. The main reason I went to talk to Aarij is highlighted even in his tweet. We were discussing Dhul Qarnain. That was the biggest issue. We went into other topics as well. He's right. In August 2015, I wasn't praying. Why would I be praying? I had already reached a point where the doubts in Islam were greater than the previous certainty I had. The ball had dropped, but to make him feel better, because he kept asking me, I prayed Maghrib with him. It felt weird as hell pretending to pray, but he insisted, so I did. And then he felt bad the next day because I was posting about Islam again. He thought I was Muslim because I prayed with him. I spoke about my meeting with Aarij here. One fine day in July 2015, I left Islam. What proceeded to happen was I had many conversations, one after another, explaining to people, my friends, my family, but especially my Muslim community, why I had left Islam. As these conversations kept happening, I noticed that I was explaining the same things over and over again. Everybody thought that they could save me. Everybody thought, I know what his problems are. I'm going to tell him how to fix his iman issues, his faith issues, and I'm going to fix it so he's going to become Muslim again. Even one of my friends, I met him, he's an Arabic teacher and he works in a masjid. He actually told me after we had a conversation, just pray with me. And I was like, but you know, I'm not sure. He's like, no, just do it. So I did my wudu. I went in the mosque and I prayed. And he was so happy. He thought I was Muslim again. But I went home, and the things he told me, they weren't really sitting well, right? They weren't good explanations. I mean, they were good explanations, but they weren't correct. They didn't fix the Quran of its main problems. So what happened in 2014 that caused me to almost leave Islam? Here I am talking about this on the Secular Jihadist podcast. The first big thing that happened was some guy online that was kind of like discussing on Facebook. And, you know, people say Facebook debates don't work, but this guy was like, he was like, I almost converted to Islam. He was a Christian, Unitarian Christian or something. And then he's like, I did some research into it, and I found out a lot of the stories in the Quran are actually ancient Jewish myths. I'm like, yeah, I know. They're like from the Torah, and they're also revealed by God. He's like, no. He said, these stories are coming from the rabbis and from the Talmud, which is not considered like a revelation, right? Basically, they're like stories they would tell, and somehow they end up,
okay.
Right?
Yes.
So then at that point, I started looking into it. I'm like, whoa, what's up with that? And I'm like, no, I'm going to disprove this guy. I'm going to show him, because I believe I was on the truth, right?
Right.
And then as I looked into it, it was getting murkier and murkier. And I'm like, a lot of these stories do seem to be made up, right? And they do seem to have found their way into the Quran. And on top of it, the ones that found their way into the Quran were also in a language similar to the Quran, in Syriac, and in a time that was similar to the Quran. So it started off with the Jewish stories, and then like Cain and Abel and stuff. And then it became a bigger question of, like, for example, Alexander the Great or Dhul Qarnayn. And, you know, the stories
the guy with the horns, right?
Yeah, Dhul Qarnayn, the two-horned guy, right?
Yeah.
And then it became like the infancy gospel. And how did that end up in the Quran? And how come that was also in Syriac, right? And so more and more I started to have trouble. I'm like, I don't know how to make sense out of this. But then I said, okay, you know what? I talked to some of my friends and said, you know, just forget it. Don't let these doubts, you know, misguide you. And so I shut it off. For one more full year, I became a Muslim. I didn't go into the full story there, but what happened was my doubts were so overwhelming at this time that I didn't fast for a day while deciding what path to take. I discussed with my wife, my good Muslim friend, and then I decided that there was some decent sort of explanation I could come up with to resolve my doubts about the stories in the Quran, and I would remain Muslim. My family knows that I went back to Islam. My public Facebook posts represent this. Everyone I know, everyone who knows me, who was working with me, knew that I was the one leading the prayers in the musalla at the office. And that one fast I missed, I even made it up. Aarij thinks it's okay to do this because I'm attacking Islam, so anything goes. This is disgusting. I hope people see this behavior for what it is. As Steven Weinberg is reported to have said, paraphrased, bad people do bad things. But for good people to do bad things, that takes religion. Islam promotes wala and bara, allegiance and disallegiance. You cannot be a friend with someone who is against your religion. It's sad because I think personal disagreements about belief should not be the cause of hatred. We should be more tolerant, to learn to live with each other despite what we believe or disbelieve, to maintain friendships in case the other person changes their mind, to try to convey to them what you believe is a truth, because maybe they'll change their mind. We don't have to like that person's belief, but we can still live with them in peace and harmony. You'll find, especially with Salafis and Islamists, that they sometimes manifest the worst parts of Islam, the antagonism and hatred towards disbelievers, and what we stand for and believe in as disbelievers. You know what that expression, they hate our freedom? Well, I think they actually do. They hate it because they are slaves living in a prison that Muhammad made for them. And so when you free others from the prisons, from the caves, it hurts them. Like Plato's analogy of the cave. They want to stay in the cave, slaves to Muhammad's made-up rules and regulations. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. And thank you for the Muslims who attacked this unethical behavior. You know, the reputational risk I take every day by doing this is highlighted when things like this happen. Either way, I will not be intimidated. And you shouldn't be either. This is your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim, Abdullah Samir, signing out.